Hey everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. John Gucci Foley here. Today we have Molly Fletcher. She is known as the female Jerry Maguire in the sports agent world. That's a tagline by CNN, by the way. Hey, we really bring it today. Molly brings her energy. She's got a TED Talk out now called The Secrets of the Champion Mindset. And this is powerful stuff. So wait till you see how we talk about making a difference in people's lives and the lives of a woman in the sports world. With that, ready? Hit it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the High Performance Zone. I got Molly Fletcher, one of my good friends, most importantly, one of the rock stars of our industry. Hey, Molly, why are you glad to be here right now with Gucci?
How can you not be with your energy, Gooch? I mean, I'm in heaven, man. I mean, I like you, man. I wake up every day and try to make the world a little bit better place, share my stories and experiences as a sports agent for almost 20 years, like you, right? The metaphor is, of course, being an absolute stud, greasing it as a Blue Angel. And, for me, the metaphor I lean into, of course, is sports and look at most things through that lens and have for the last 20 years. So I'm glad to be here because you have great energy and I'm excited to be a part of this show, man.
Well, I'm glad you're here because you just connect. I've seen you connect to audiences. I know you and I connect. Hey, what's that tagline? I love it. The Jerry Maguire, right? I mean, is he still using that? Because that is cool. CNN did that, right?
Yeah, CNN, claimed that years ago. They said, look, she's the female Jerry Maguire. And it just kind of stuck, right? And some people are like, man, does that bother you? What shouldn't he be the male Molly Fletcher? And I'm like, easy guys. I mean, this guy, this movie is legendary, but it's I don't read into it. It's a quick way for people to kind of know what I did and give them kind of a sense of perspective around the work that I was in for so long.
Well, give me one good story. Give our audience one good story because you were a rock star sport agent, right? And I know you got your list of people you actually represented. And then I want to get into what you're doing now because that's even more impactful, right? But what's one good story for the listeners?
Wow, man. I mean, we had about 300 athletes and coaches and a team of agents that served our clients. So you can imagine, Gooch, like with 300 guys and gals waking up every day, you got guys getting hired and fired and called up and called down and, injured and healthy. I mean, it was just a funnel of change constantly. And I think, most of your listeners are dealing with a ton of change, right? I mean, the world is so different every day. People are navigating that and that can be challenging. But, I think the story I'd share is, John Smoltz was a client forever and John was a right-handed pitcher for the Braves. But John was a guy that 10 years into his career as a starter, the team asked him to step into the closer role, which is the guy that steps on the mound at the end of games, right? This is 10 years as a starter. I mean, he was in a heck of a rhythm, routine, physically, mentally, all that. But John stepped into that closer role. He sort of took that challenge on. And, where so many people in the world see change as a challenge, John saw it as an opportunity. I mean, he said, look, this is a way that I can contribute to this team, these 24 other guys, this community, this city, my GM, even better. And so John stepped into the role of closer and then led the National League in saves that season. And, went into the Hall of Fame as not just one of the best starters, but one of the best closers. And, we were just talking, right? The world's changing but winners adapt. And John, what I saw over and over again with my athletes is, they were always having to adjust and pivot little things because complacency is the enemy of success, right? And those guys and gals wake up every day and there's somebody waiting to take their job that can't, just like you, man, when you were flying, I mean, there's a ton of guys and gals that wanted to be a Blue Angel. I mean, talk about competitive. So you had to wake up every day and get better or you're out, right? And it's the same with my guys. So, change is constant, but I would challenge and encourage people to recognize it's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, let's talk about that complacency, how you overcome it, right? Because you've got like 3 C's for high performance, right? What are those 3?
Well, I mean, to me, when we think about how to combat, complacency, I think the interesting thing about complacency is people don't like to talk about it, right? People sort of don't want to acknowledge that maybe they're in this place. And sometimes, we think about all the areas of our lives, we find ourselves in those spots. And, to me, we're building a course that's going to help people with this, but you've got to adjust your mindset to be at some level, this limitless mindset, right? Where kind of where a lot of times people see obstacles, people with this limitless mindset see opportunities. I think, when we have to combat complacency, we've got to be curious. I mean, one of the things I see, Gooch, on my podcast is that the best of the best, and you're this way, I mean, they're curious, right? They're constantly trying to, create more opportunities and choices. And I sort of say, to your point, curiosity creates choices. Curiosity creates chances. I think, in the world that we're in today, right? I mean, when we think about how to combat it, we've got to be resilient. I mean, stuff's coming at us. We're getting knocked down. We have tough clients, tough days, all the change, we're working at home, all the stuff that COVID has impacted. But, all my athletes and all my coaches would say that, the difference between good and great is the ability to recover from adversity really fast. You got to recover. I mean, when you were flying, right, we make mistakes sometimes. Now, you couldn't make very many. Trust me.
Smaller.
I mean, your mistakes were 2 inches. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but actually, you know what, Molly, good point. Most people don't realize that we actually were constantly off. We're constantly not making mistakes, but we're off and we're adjusting, right? Same thing in sports, same thing in business, right? So it may look perfect from the ground, but when you're in that cockpit and it's moving around, you realizing that you're flying your jet in a 3-inch circle, by the way, Molly, upside down sometimes, right?
I know, man.
I know.
Well, oh my gosh, I know. I mean, so I think combating complacency, the opposite to me is drive. And how do we unlock that? We unlock that through mindset, through purpose, through discipline, through connection, through curiosity, through resilience, right? Yeah. And through being intentional about who we give our energy to.
Oh, there you go. Now, you two big themes, right? I want to get into what do you do for resiliency, right? Because we talked about resiliency is a key, right? We got to be able to recover, got to be able to adjust. So let's just start right there. You got a new program out on resiliency, right? What is that? How do you combat and teach resiliency?
Yeah, well, I look at everything through the lens of sports, and I saw my athletes often, struggle. And I remember I had a guy once, and he was like, for his last 35 or something at the plate. He was struggling, and so I put a video together for him, a 2.5 minute little, film of him just, roping it to the opposite field, right through the gap, guys coming out of the dugout, pumping it. I mean, just one ridiculous moment after another. And I was like, dude, before the game tonight, just watch this video, right? Like, you belong here. You're good. You've done this. And he, we see this, right? We see athletes lean into film to recover. I think we as business people need a similar tool, right? So, it can be our purpose statement, our mission statement. It can be, I have a smile file on my computer where I just drop great notes, great nuggets. All we have.
Oh, you call that a smile file?
I do, man. I do.
So whenever you get a good quote, good nugget, something just inspires you, you drop it into your smile file.
Totally. Exactly. Hey, or great emails, great stuff. I just drop it. And then, like, when you're maybe doubting things, and everybody, right? All of it. You have these moments, and you need to use we need to use our own version of film to reboot and recover. And I think the difference is you've got to do it fast. I mean, the best golfers in the world, they bogey golf holes, right? Great coaches make bad calls. Great athletes miss free throws. I mean, it is all about how quickly you can recover and reboot, because generally it's inside of these 4 or 5 inches in between our ears.
Yeah. Hey, I got a really cool reboot technique, and then I want to hear yours, okay? Because we're just putting out, same thing with you. We got a course called the Gratitude Pack, right? And it's 3 techniques to make gratitude increase your performance, right? The first is this glad to be here, wake up. So how to wake up happy and all that. But the second one is this glad to be here reboot. So let me run this by you, and then you tell me what you think. So first thing I've realized in rebooting, what we have to do is, the first thing we have to do is become aware that, holy shit, something's knocked me off balance, right?
Right.
I mean, here's what I've noticed. Before you get angry, before you get upset, there's this little bit of, holy cow, I get knocked off out of balance. Like, why'd that person say that? Or what just happened there, right? And then the next thing you do is you start ruminating on it and thinking about the past or the future. And then you start getting angry. And the last thing you do is get resentful, right? So what I'm trying to do is help people just stop that chain of events, right? Stop that negative downward spiral. First thing I've realized, first step in rebooting is just to do, holy shit, like, wait, stop. Let me think about what's going on in my mind here between these two ears. Then what I'm thinking about is next is I've realized you got to connect back to something that's in the present moment. So I use my breath, Molly. I sit there and I go, wait a minute, let me take like 3 deep breaths. But I learned this is do a double exhale, right? Try this right now. Try this on, like, just exhale. And then do the second exhale. You know where that last piece is there? And the same thing on the inhale. Do a breath in and then take a deeper breath in. Okay. Feel that, believe it or not, 25% more air comes into your lungs and gets out on those second pieces, right? So getting that stale crap out, right? Plus, it makes you focus. So instead of being pissed off, you're trying to focus on your mind, right? Second, then after we've taken the breath, I've noticed this third step, get into the present moment and just say, what's the temperature of the air? Looking them up. I'm in Florida right now. By the way, where are you? Where are you right now?
Atlanta. Georgia.
You're Atlanta. Okay, you're home. I love it. Great. And you look out, and you see the sky and stuff. But here's the fourth one, Molly. Glad to be here, man. You got to reset your brain into what you did for that baseball player. And that is, let's connect to something we're grateful about. Not all the problems that I'm having.
Right.
What am I grateful for in the present moment? So those are my 4 steps. What do you got? What do you got?
I love that, man. I think that's so good. I mean, to me, I love what you said. I mean, at some level, you're describing a version of meditation, right? And to me, it is a full-on reset. And breath is one of the most powerful things to help you reset. Obviously, gratitude, so powerful in helping us reset. And I think, one of the things, everybody comes at it a different way. And I think for the people, listening, know that whatever way works for you is great, right? Like, because we all find the things that maybe work better, focusing on gratitude, focusing on our breath, all of the above. But it is imperative that we, to your point, first, you got to be aware of it. You got to recognize, wait, I'm sliding. This is not good. I've got to catch this, stopgap it, so that I can offset this becoming anything bigger than it is. I think the other thing I would add to what you shared is we got to control the controllables, and be in the present moment. I mean, the best athletes in the world, I mean, they're going to have bad ref calls, but you can't spend the next 4 minutes or the rest of the half agonizing about the bad ref call. I mean, you've got to recover and control what you can control. And I think, and then I think you've got to also say, I'm a big proponent of being intentional about managing our energy, right? Like I saw the best athletes in the world, they would ask themselves, not where am I going to spend my time, but where am I going to spend my energy? Big difference, right? Most business people say, what they look at their calendars and they sort of operate inside of their life through their lens of their calendar, when in fact, I think we've got to say, okay, what are the big rocks? What matters most? How do I make sure I'm putting the energy toward the things that actually matter most based on what I'm chasing? The other thing I'd add to your stuff is, I think that when we're going through tough stuff, right? When things are hard, we got to know why we're doing it. Like we have to have a clear purpose. I mean, you heard my story when we spoke together once. I mean, I moved to Atlanta with $2,000, no job, sleeping on my friend's couch, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted it, right? And I had a clear purpose. And I think when we know why we're doing what we're doing and we see the light at the end of where we're going and we want it bad enough, we'll outwork everybody. We'll get after it. We'll stay the course, even though we're going to hit some speed bumps, but you got to want it bad enough that you'll drive right over those speed bumps and keep going.
Hey, I love your intentional and purpose. What is your purpose right now? Let's give the audience some idea of this energy, right? That you've created.
Yeah. I mean, my purpose statement, which I spent a lot of time and energy working on, is to lead, inspire, and connect with courage and optimism. And what that means is it becomes a filter by which, I say yes and no to opportunities. I say yes and no to keynotes. I say it becomes a filter. Can I lead, inspire, and connect? It also becomes a way in which you approach moments in your life, right? Like when you're inside of certain moments, it gives you an opportunity to reframe it and say, okay, wait a minute. If my purpose is to lead, inspire, and connect and do it with courage and optimism, how do I make sure that I'm showing up in that way so that I can serve and solve and kind of lead, if you will, in that way? Because when we anchor ourselves in that, I mean, and you know this, man, it changes the way we show up, right? It changes the way we communicate. It changes the way we lead. It changes the way we serve. It changes the way we do those things. And so it becomes a filter. It's powerful. I'd encourage people to lean into that because, you know, I mean, you know this, Gooch. I mean, you got to know what you're chasing. I mean, you and I have seen a lot of successful, miserable people. And there is nothing that breaks my heart more, man, because you want to kind of, you got to make sure your ladder's leaning up against the right wall for you, right? When we're grinding it, I had a friend, Gucci, recently. He's a big time executive. She's so smart. She's incredible. And I was talking to her one day and she was really struggling. She's like, Molly, I'm tired. I'm gaining weight. I'm not exercising. My daughter and I are kind of sideways. We're not getting along, all this stuff. And I said, wow. And she said, you know, my husband's gained weight and I'm traveling too much. I mean, just one thing after another. And I said, I kind of pause and I go, what are you chasing? And she goes, what the hell kind of question is that? And I go, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is it all for? I mean, you know, what's the deal? And she goes, well, what do you mean? And I go, what are you chasing? Do you want to, like, are you trying to make more money? Do you need this? I mean, are you trying to buy a second home? Like, what are you chasing? Well, shit, I don't know. And I said, I want you to think about that. We got to get to the bottom of that.
Wow.
So it's a powerful question to ask ourselves.
That's huge. And what are you chasing? What is your?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, for me, like you, I speak about 80 days a year. We have a training company too, and we deliver training programs inside of organizations. We have books that we've released. So I'm chasing living my purpose, which is how do I use all of these delivery techniques and mechanisms, if you will, be it an online course, be it our, leadership community huddle that I deliver content, and be it my podcast, be it my books, be it stages. How can I live into my purpose inside of all these various vehicles to deliver information that I believe helps lead, inspire, and encourage people to at some level up your game? I spent 20 years with peak performers and tried to keep them at that level or get them to the next level, right? A first round draft pick, trying to get him to the big leagues, a guy that's coming out of college as a top golfer, a D3 coach trying to go to D1, a college coach trying to go to the NBA. And so for me, it's about how do you take high achieving people and unlock that next gear in them, that next level of leadership inside of them.
Yeah. Talk to me about that energy course, because, how do you create energy? I love that you talked about, it's not about time. It's about where do I spend my energy? And I know, just like you, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at my calendar, not as what meeting do I have? It's like, which will have the most impact? How can I help the most people? And how can I bring it? Right. So how do you help people with that?
Well, and I'll give you kind of a quick backstory. I mean, this came to me really from, as an agent, I remember sitting in my office once with Matt Kuchar, who's a PGA Tour player out on tour. And we were looking at, how many tournaments do you want to play next season? It was in like November, and we were looking at the following season's tour schedule. And what we did was we said, okay, well, where are the majors? When are the majors? Where have we made cuts? What golf courses play into his game? All those things. And then we backed into his calendar based on the big moments, the majors, the courses where he's made cuts, the courses where he's top 10. And we said, okay, we need to be intentional about ensuring that we've got a week off before the big tournament, or we've got, we had to plan his schedule so that he showed up with the kind of energy to perform at his best. And then I got out into the business world and I was like, this is fascinating. People are like accepting meetings, and then they show up at these meetings and they're totally annoyed. And they're like, why isn't somebody else? Why am I doing? And then they don't have the kind of energy they need for the big sales pitch at 4:00 that day because they've been inside of all this. So, and then mistakes that I made in my own life where I found myself at times, just exhausted or drained. And I thought, I have got to better manage my schedule so that I'm showing up with the kind of energy. So the first step I'd tell people to do is, we call it an energy audit, where you've got to be intentional. To your point earlier, you got to have awareness, right? So we start with awareness around what gives you energy. What are the things that really lift you up? Like you see them on your calendar and you're excited about them. Whatever they can be, and they can be things that are a 2-minute breathing exercise. To your point, it can be a step outside. It can be 5 minutes. It can be 2 hours. It can be a weekend. But we've got to identify what those things are that get us going. And we got to write them down. And then we've got to take those things to our calendar and protect that time and color code it, and don't allow, manage up, manage down inside the organization to ensure that people don't come over top of those things that you've tried to protect. And then I think you've also got to say, what are the things that completely drain you? Like you see them on your calendar and you're just like, shoot me, right? Go away. What are those things? We want to ensure that we minimize, delegate, remove. But what we got to make sure is that we don't have, an afternoon of all of these drainers back to back to back to back to back, or a week of, or a day of. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. That's when people crash and burn. And so it's taking the things that give you energy, taking the drainers, and then taking it to our calendar and being intentional about protecting, removing, or eliminating. And I would encourage people right now, go 30 days out in your calendar and do this. Take the things that give you energy, put them green in your calendar. The things that drain, red, gives you a little bit of a visual too, so that you can start to manage against it.
Man, that's beautiful. I know that I do that, but never with the intention that you just described, right? And I block out. The other thing I find is, using times to block out, right? Where you can recharge in whatever way, shape, or form you do it. How do you do it? What's your average day look like, or average week look like? Where do you want to focus your energy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've identified certainly the things that give me energy and the drainers, and for me, it's just ensuring, for example, I don't do more than 2 live keynotes in a week. I just can't. We have 3 daughters, one's in college, 2 at home.
Are twins, right? You got twins?
Yeah, we have twins, exactly. And they're 18 now, but I'm the only one that can be their mom. I'm the only one that can be my husband's wife. So I ensure that there's going to be plenty of time and plenty of runway when they're all in college. But now I want to be at these sporting events. I want to be at these moments. I mean, beautiful. For sure. So I cap my speaking engagements per week, at least for live. Now, as you and I were talking about, there's a lot of virtual as well, and so I'm doing a ton of those. Those are and live, right? And so I look at I basically take boundaries and then and that's, to me, the result of balance is clarity first, and then having the discipline to say and live into it. And it's hard. I mean, I've got 2 firm, and then a longtime client comes back and says, wait, we got to have you at this sales meeting, or we want you at this, and you've already got 2. And look, I'm not perfect, right? Sometimes I'm like, oh, I love these guys, right? I got to do it. But then I make sure that the following week, maybe I only have 1, or maybe I only have, and I'm more intentional. So you've just got to say what gives you energy, what depletes. And then, like, I protect my workouts. Like, working out is massive for me. It gives me energy. And so I make sure that, my days are pretty much blocked out in the mornings until about 10, which I'm fortunate to do. I'm blessed to do. But, I make sure I've got that morning time with my girls and my husband, and then I can go work out and get my day kind of my head around. So, and then I think you've got to try. I try not to go back to back to back to back. If like we've got this right now, I've got 30 minutes to get my head around emails and respond to things before a lunch meeting. I mean, so and so many people are like one boom, 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 back to back. I mean, and here's the thing, Gooch, that gets me going is that you go and you do that all day long, and you give to all these people at work and your clients, but then you get home to the people who matter the most, who need you the most, who you need to be present for, and you don't have the energy for them. And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because you get home to the people that love you the most, that need you the most. And so I think we've got to be more intentional, without question.
Well, I love the energy you bring every time we're together. You bring me energy. So this is an energy building experience for me. I'm telling you, I've been so looking forward to this. Is this for you, or is this a drainer?
How can I not, Gooch? I mean, you're coming through the phone, dude. I mean, 100%. I mean, you're a blast. I love it.
I love that too. The connection, right? You mentioned connection being so important in your mission statement. How do you build connection? How does somebody listening to this say, I want to make a deeper connection, whether it's with, like you said, the people closest to you or the client that's down the street? How do you
Sure.
build connection?
To me, it's about adding value in advance of, early on in a relationship. I mean, adding value, pouring in, giving with no agenda, but giving to make their life better. And if we give to make other people's lives better, then there is a high likelihood that potentially something comes back our way. But that's not why you do it, right? So for me, it's about ensuring that connection is anchored on, to me, adding value and closing a gap and anticipating problems in people's lives, and then attempting to solve and serve. And so, and there's a really big difference. I mean, I think it also requires. I mean, I sat in so many meetings, Gooch. It makes me think about. I sat in so many meetings with financial advisors that would pitch our players. And, because we didn't manage money at the agency, but, obviously the phone rang. I mean, when you've got guys making $1 million a week, right? Your phone rings with advisors, right? And so, and they would come in with their decks and their iPads and their computers and these presentations, which is great. They're impressive. But it's like part of connection is having the courage to get off script, to be curious, to ask questions, to really listen so that the gap in their life, and then you can solve for that gap. And that was my strategy in recruiting about 300 athletes, was getting in their head and heart, anticipating the gaps, being curious, asking questions, getting off script, listening, really listening, and then leaving those meetings having 2 to 3 things that, now I can go do that. I mean, I sat with a baseball player once, and I learned in our conversation that he and his wife loved Carrie Underwood. They loved her. And I left that meeting, reached out to some folks that I knew, fortunately, and, got them tickets to Carrie Underwood, got them front row, got them backstage, got them all that stuff. Well, then all of a sudden they go, dude, you don't even represent me and you're doing stuff like this. Like, I might need to switch to you. You could help me. I mean, my guy that represents me isn't doing this stuff. So, to me, it's about adding value and helping make other people's lives better, and having the courage to get off script and connect. To be, one way to think about it, I think, Gooch, is that you got to be relational, not transactional. And what I would challenge your listeners to do is pull back and say, who are the 10, 15, 20 most important relationships in your world? And how can you pull back and take a minute and get in their head and heart? Like, where are they? What are they worried about? What's working? What's not working? And then anticipate those gaps and attempt to add value. And those can be things like, they're going on spring break in a week with their kids to, pick a spot, send them an article about the greatest restaurants in that market for them, and say, hey, look, I think this would be a place that you guys might enjoy because you told me when we were together that you love Italian. I mean, it's just about being creative and being curious.
And when you're on stage, how do you connect with the audience right away? What is your technique? What do you use?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, number one, I'm really prepared. I mean, I've probably given 500 keynotes, Gooch, but like you, I want to get in the head and the heart of the people that are in the room. And, I know a lot of speakers who are like, I do a pre-call with every leader who hires me to come in and speak, because I want to get in the world and the head and the heart of the audience. What are they worried about? What's working? What's not working? All that stuff. So ensuring that they know that what they're worried about, to me, is key. But I mean, the truth is, I believe as a speaker, one of the most important things, I mean, you've just been introduced to this audience and they've read this bio that is impressive enough that they've decided to put you in front of their most important asset, their people. So I'm a big fan of self-deprecation. I tell a lot of stories pretty quickly about mistakes that I've made, right? You want to kind of, and then you're physically elevated on a stage. So I think you have to very quickly get down and make sure that they know that you're in their world, and that, you've done a lot of things right, maybe to be in front of them, but you've certainly made some mistakes too, and that you're authentically there and showing up.
Yeah, I like that word, authentic. That's one thing you always show up, Molly. I mean, people can feel it right now, right? Okay. I mean, you are just so authentic, and you're real and fun too, right? I mean, you bring the energy, but it's authentic energy, and I think that's so cool. One technique I use a lot is the idea of glad to be here, because it's so true. Every audience, every interaction that I have with somebody, I want them to know I'm really grateful just to be in their presence. It's not the other way around. I'm learning from them and being authentic like you. I'm sitting here going, this is the most precious time because I'm learning, our audience is learning, and I'm just authentically grateful for the opportunity to learn. I got this mantra. Let me bounce it off you. Learn, grow, give. Okay.
Love it.
But I realized, Molly, I had it backwards. It starts with giving, right? So you give, then you learn, then you grow. You just said that earlier.
Yeah.
You got any mantras? What do you like, or sayings? I mean, that just motivate you?
Oh man, I mean, curiosity creates choices. Curiosity creates chances is something that I really believe in. I think that number one, it's a way more interesting way to live your life, right? Is to truly be curious, because look, I mean, everybody's walking in their world, living their lives, right? And they all have unbelievable perspective. We have an opportunity to learn from so many people. So like you, I mean, anytime that you are put in front of, I just take it so seriously. I mean, when you're put in front of an organization and 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 500 people, 200 people, those people are busy. They got a lot going on personally and professionally. And now you're sitting there taking up 45 minutes or an hour of their life. And to me, it's a big deal. And so you got to take that seriously, and you've got to deliver, because obviously they're sitting there going, all right, lady, look, I got a lot going on. My kids are texting me. My parents are texting me. My boss is on to me about this thing. And now I got to listen to you for 45 minutes. Like, you better bring it. And that's a big deal to me. I mean, you want to make sure that every heart and soul in that room grabs, a couple nuggets that they can instantly lift up and lay over top of their life and do what they do a little better.
I know you do that so well, and you're working on how do they take that message after the stage? So what are you working on? What can you share with this audience? Because you have so many programs you're developing, right?
Sure.
And one of the challenges that that I have too is how do we keep the message alive? How do people activate what we've just delivered them? So how do you do it? What can you offer people?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, I'm all about the journey of the heart and the soul in the room. And so, we have opportunities for individuals to engage with us directly and sort of.
And how do they do that? What is that?
With our B2C, with a course called Up Your Game.
Up Your Game.
It's a
I love that
digital course. Yeah, right. It's a digital course that people can engage with. There's that. And then, we do Energized Team, which is the Energized Leader as a team. We also have a negotiation course. So we deploy my coaches. We have coaches that deliver that training. So it depends on the lens. I'm answering this question it depends on the lens by which the individual in the room is looking through. So they can engage with us as an individual, they can engage with us as a team, or they can engage with us as an organization. And there's a myriad of ways inside of that we take them through that journey. Often through asynchronous learning digitally, or through our live and then on-demand training with our high impact program. So it's all on mollyfletcher.com. People can check it out. But, everybody in that room is coming in and looking at it through a different lens. And so you want to make sure that they can jump on your train in whichever way makes the most sense for them and based on what they need most.
What drives you? What inspires you? If someone says, Molly, man, you are bringing it. I want more of you. What do you do? What gets you fired up?
I was in Lincoln, Nebraska the other day for a keynote. I was in Dallas. I was in, and the thing that drives me is after a keynote, I mean, this man came up to me and, he was probably 60 years old. I mean, he was just, and he came up and he was teared up. Yeah. And he said, I got to tell you, you really hit me. And I said, tell me. And he said, look, I mean, when you talked about how important it is to be present, I'm not. And his eyes were welling up. And this guy was a big dude. I mean, he looked like the last dude in the room to be crying. and I was like, wow, and then when a woman comes up and says, I heard you 2 years ago and I took that advice around negotiation and I went in and I did this and I got this. And that's, when you those are the moments, or the emails, or the LinkedIn, or those are the moments when you go, okay, they heard it, they did something with it, and it made their life better. I mean, that's what gets me going, whether it's live, whether it's an email, whatever it is. I mean, that's what it's all about. To me, it's not about anything else.
It's funny. I'm here in Florida. I just did an event and yesterday, and afterwards, how people are hanging out. They want to say hi, and
Sure.
I love those interactions. But
Totally.
You see that one person in the back who's waiting,
Yeah.
till everybody else has left, and he pulls me out, and young kid, beautiful young African-American Black kid, and he says, "Hey, Gucci," he says, "I was USNA class of 2001," and I'm like, "Really?" Yeah. And he says, can I, do you have like, 20 minutes, your time, sometime I can get a hold of you? I said, how about right now? Let's talk.
Yeah.
If you got something on your thing right now, we went over and found a corner, we sat down, and, he's going through change in his life. Right. And he wanted some advice. And I said, I'm not trying to give you advice, but let me tell you a story. And I just went through the story of my transition from the Blue Angels to leadership role in the Navy to getting out, right? And then having to reinvent yourself and being, a business that blew up, a relationship that blew up, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. But he goes, you seem like what you're doing right now is your passion, is what you love. I said, yeah, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing that was beautiful was what I realized, and why I'm sharing with you, because you do the same thing, is I didn't have a pat answer. I just listened and told the story, right? And he made the connection in his mind. And now, and he said, and listen to this. I said, one of the best things I've ever done. I want to ask you about one of the best questions you've ever asked. I had a CEO when I was in business school, and someone I wanted to learn from. He's called David Price, American Golf Corporation. He's rolling up the golf industry, right? And so one day I called him up on an island in Fiji here, Molly, and I was getting kind of bored. And I called up David. I said, hey, David, I got a proposition for you. I'll give you a month of my services if you teach me how to run a Fortune 500 company. That was my pitch. Okay.
Wow.
And he got quiet like for about 15 seconds. That's a long time on the phone, right? And I'm thinking, oh man, I just blew this relationship. and he goes, not only, yeah, hell yeah. Can you be here next week? I said, David, I'm in Fiji. Give me 3 weeks, right? But the bottom line was I showed up, and he opened up the world to me because I said, I'm going to give you something first, and he gave me way more than I ever gave him, right? So what's funny is I tell that story at the end of the thing. Ben goes, hey, Gucci, I'll give you a month of my services if you can teach me. And I said, I don't need that, but that's okay. I'll definitely
That's
help
awesome.
you. Yeah. So what's a good question or a good story? What do you that you've used that really opened up your world, opened up that curiosity, made a difference?
Yeah.
What,
I would say, I can't claim this, but I got a gentleman gave me this advice. He said that, when I was young, right, when I got to Atlanta, when I was looking for a sports job, and he said, remember this, Molly. He said, sometimes when you ask for advice, you get a job. And sometimes when you ask for a job, you get advice. And it changed the way I approached it, right? In the sense that, when you call somebody and ask them for the business, or when you call somebody, and so, to me, I would just, when you use the advice word, I think it is less threatening to the people on the other side. They want to be able to maybe help you because you're asking for advice. Lots of people love to give advice, right? They love to feel like they're, so that was a piece of information that I got once and I think it's true in business, right? For salespeople, sometimes when you ask for the business, you get advice. Sometimes when you ask for advice, you get the business, right? Yeah. So, and that goes into that curiosity sort of approach to it, right? Is being curious, asking for advice, listening, learning is to me just, as I said earlier, an interesting way to live our life and a way that we can show up and drive connection with people. I mean, we live in a world that's all about relationships. I mean, it is all about relationships. And that means that we have to, show up and connect authentically, to your word earlier. I mean, there's nothing easier in life than being yourself, right? And have the, we want to make sure that people have the confidence and the courage to show up as who they authentically are, because that's what drives connection. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I'm glad we got back to connection. I have a saying, connect the line, commit, right? And so you got to connect then you align, and then you commit, right? Hey, talk to me about your Game Changer podcast. I know this thing rips. You were telling me about it. Who do you have on? What do you try to go over in your podcast?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what I try to do is sort of unlock what drives these already pretty incredible people. I mean, we've had on, John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods. I had on Matthew McConaughey. That was fun. Of course, the actor, Priyanka Jonas. We've had on some incredible, I'm so grateful, Dabo Sweeney. We've had coaches, entrepreneur, athletes, all those kind of folks. And, for me, it's how do we ask great questions and listen to extract information that will help people who maybe feel a little bit stuck, that aren't really exactly where they want to be, but they're probably tracking pretty well, right? But,
Yep.
but they're a little stuck. How do we deliver information in a way and through a lens that allows them to unlock that? So, it's called Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. So most of the folks that we interview are people that are coming at life a little bit differently, that are game changers in their own way. And we've been very blessed to have some absolutely unbelievable guests on, and it's their show. It's not mine. Holly Rowe told me once, she's an ESPN commentator. And I love this. I mean, to me, my job is to ask great questions and for people to not worry about me as much as it is the kind of information that I'm pulling from this rock star for them to learn from.
Well, give me two great questions I can ask you, okay? Or just one, right? Because as I'm interviewing you, my mind's going, what is the question I can ask Molly that'll help the world, right?
Yeah.
That'll help my audience. And because it is about you. I mean, you bring so much beautiful wisdom out into the world. What questions do you like to ask?
The question I get quite a bit, right, is what was it like being a woman in a male-dominated industry, right?
Oh, there you go.
And that's a question that I get often. And to me, it was about mindset. It was about reframing these moments when I was the only woman standing behind the plate at a big league ballpark, during BP, during batting practice, or when you're the only woman on the range, or, when you're the only, and there was lots of moments where, managers would yell at my baseball players and go, dude, what are you doing hitting on that chick, man? Get over here to BP. And they're like, dude, it's my agent. And the manager's like, what? So, there was lots of moments like that where it would have been easy for me to get discouraged. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe this isn't working. Maybe this isn't the right thing. Maybe I'm chasing the wrong dream. But instead it was like, okay, what a gift. This is awesome. In other words, how can we all find our difference, if you will, what makes us different, and use that as our superpower, right? Use it as our superpower. And so, to me, finding that, recognizing that, and reframing our mindset around those things is key, right? I mean, a lot of times it's about our mindset, and we've got to shift it to one that's serving us, that allows us to show up as our best selves versus one that's holding us back.
Do you have a process to shift mindsets, or how would you start?
Sure. I mean, I think you've got to first ask yourself, is the way I'm showing up serving me? Is it serving the mission that I'm on in life, right? And what's at risk if I don't make a change? What's at risk if I don't make a change? And what's at risk if I do? And often what you'll realize is, wow, what's at risk if I don't make a change, right? Then I'm going to stay stuck. What's at risk if I do make a change? There's probably not, maybe a lot of risk depending on the issue. And so, okay, then what is a new story, if you will, that I need to tell myself to allow me to shift behavior? Because often, I mean, this thing, our brain, I mean, it's like its own animal, its own computer, just pushing out automatic thoughts and, telling you stories that sometimes are keeping you stuck in a place that isn't where you want to be. And so you've got to say, okay, where am I stuck? What's the story that I'm telling myself around that area? And then what's the new story? We see this in our Energized Leader training. People say, look, maybe they're stuck because they haven't been working out. They gained weight. They're not eating well. They're not sleeping well. They physically don't feel good. And they're saying to themselves, I don't have time. I don't have time. I mean, I got emails, I got jobs, I got kids, I got husbands, I got stuff. I don't have time to work out. How the heck do you expect me to work out? So that's their story that's keeping them in this place that doesn't serve them. Instead of saying, wait a minute, you know what? When I work out, I feel better. I have more energy. I'm going to live longer. I show up better for the people in my life who matter most. That's a new story that you can tell yourself that's going to allow you to pivot. And so to me, that's one of the best techniques to shift.
Yeah, I love what you said, and it's this idea of debrief. A lot of times I talk about in the Blue Angels, right? We always debriefed, and the thing I get with a lot of companies right away is, man, I don't have time. We're going for the next deal, hyper growth, all this thing, and you can use this phrase because I've seen it work really well for me. Is you don't have time not to, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
once you understand the power of what we're talking about, you actually shift your mind or you flip it, right? You have time not to. And just like you said, for the people who are, who need that energy and need to show up and be an inspiration or be there for people, right? It's really, you're serving others by serving yourself, by taking that time. Yeah. And so I don't have time not to is one of my mantras, right?
I love it.
Like I don't have time not to prepare because I have to prepare if I'm going to be there, right?
Yeah,
I don't have time not to debrief because I have to debrief if I want to get better, if I want to learn. And I know
love that.
And that, by the way, that was through your conversation. I mean, I've had that, but you just crystallized it for me. Hey, I know we got a hard stop here. I really love that you were able to spend this much time with us, everybody here. Is there one kind of takeaway that you'd want to leave people with? We've talked a lot. By the way, I found it interesting that you say, you block out to 10 in the morning on most days. I do the same thing. And
really?
And the reason is because that's my quality time. That's where I'm going to learn. I've got this morning routine I do that, for energy. By the way, I got it down to 7 minutes. And now this morning I had 4 minutes and I got it in 4 minutes, right?
What do you do? What do you do?
Okay.
Is it the breathing?
Super quick. I start off with a gratitude. I wake up with a gratitude meditation in my own mind. By meditation, I mean, I just wake up and say, what am I grateful for? Present moment, the past, and the future. Then I get my butt outside. I get out of bed and hit my left foot on the floor first. And that's a trigger that tells me today's not normal. Today's magical. Right. Then I get my butt outside because I live in Sun Valley. It's cold as hell usually. And I do a routine, an exercise, stretching, kind of Navy SEAL yoga routine that I put together. And in fact, we're just putting this together. It'll be on the website soon. I'll send it to you so you can see it. But it's a bowing. It's a routine where you bow, you stretch, you breathe, but it's quick, right? And then I stand on my head, Molly. I always stand on my head because I want to flip my perspective on life, right? So that's my morning routine. What's yours? What is yours?
That's such good stuff, man. And I I mean, I try to get up before everybody in the house, and
you do.
I get out and because it just to your point. I mean, it gives you an opportunity to reboot. Start with gratitude, and then I pull back and think about all the people in my life who matter most, and think, what are things that I can anticipate in their lives today to maybe add value, support them? What are they worried about? All that kind of stuff. And like you, I mean, but I don't stand on my head, man. I don't really start moving right away. But and then sort of a more intentional breathing, more intentional meditation, like you. And to me, and then I'm working out inside of an hour of being awake.
And what's your workout? What kind of workouts?
I mean, man, I do it's like what's it called? It's a super mega reformer Pilates machine, but I try to alternate between cardio and basically lifting.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's walking. I mean, I had Brad Stevens on, the head coach of the Celtics forever, and now he's in the front office. But I said, what's a new habit, Brad, that you've unlocked? I mean, this is an NBA coach, stud. He said, walking. And I was like, dude, wait, what? What do you mean walking? I mean, I was a student athlete, so I thought walking was like what you did if you couldn't run, like nobody walks. And here's the thing, I'm 50. I'm like, dude, walking is amazing. I listen to great stuff on my, AirPod and podcast, all that. And so for me, it's alternating between strength training and cardio training. And then I do a ton of yoga. I love hot yoga. And that's where, to your point earlier, the instructor says, take a deep breath. Now get a little bit more, right? Take that extra sip. So, exercise is, I think sometimes we've got to say, and then I'm a big, I do cold showers, I do cold
Yep.
plunges,
Yep.
I'll jump in a hyperbaric chamber. I mean, I'm all about all the physical things. I believe like food is
Yes.
fuel. And I try to eat real clean, real food. I'm pretty psycho about stuff like that. So get my wheatgrass in, my cod liver oil, my spirulina. I mean, I'm a little crazy.
Yeah, spirulina. I'm gonna share with you my green smoothie recipe afterwards.
Love
I'll
it,
send
man.
you
Hit
a
me.
quick video. But this has been unbelievable. I've seen your background. You got your 5 books. You've got. I want to make sure people know they can go and get your latest books. Where do you like people to go to get more information?
Just they can go to mollyfletcher.com if they want to learn more
Yep.
about me, and then of course everything's on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. The Energy
And the
Clock,
programs.
Yeah, mollyfletcher.com. If they go there, that'll take them on that journey to different things. And there's a TED Talk that I gave about a month and a half ago that people have been digging. It's been helping people. So, but they can see that on the site as well.
What's the title of TED Talk?
Secrets of a Championship Mindset. Secrets of a championship mindset. Yes, it's
okay. Give me the executive summary. What are the points?
Well, it's all about how when I was an agent, I mean, what I found was there's no place for complacency in sports. I mean, you cannot be complacent. There's somebody trying to take your job all the time. So it's all about how the good ones spent, time worrying about the competition, but the great ones spent time upping their game internally, right? I mean, I can promise you, LeBron, Brady, Serena Williams, they're not studying their opponent's behavior. They are every day getting better inside of themselves. And then I think too, it's this internal drive to improve versus this focus on competition. And then it's also recognizing that it's the process, it's the climb that makes it all worthwhile. And so I think one of the other things that I found with sports, and I'm sure with you, is that, when you chase achievement, it's fleeting, right? If you just chase getting to the summit, what I have found is that you get there, it's fairly underwhelming. Whereas if you chase fulfillment, there is no end to that, right? Because we're always continuing to chase that. So it's this drive to get better versus this drive to achieve. It's this mental shift, right? It's this drive to get better versus achieve, because there's no end to get better. We want to just be better than we were yesterday. Whereas achievement, there's a tipping point.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm going to listen to that talk right away. Everybody hit Molly's website and hit that talk. But the other thing that I just thought about is that fulfillment is also a purpose larger than self, right? And that's, as you were talking, I'm sitting here going, if it's only about you to achieve X, it just ain't there, right? But when you have that drive, that fulfillment of a purpose larger than self to impact the world like you're doing, to change people's lives, then that gives you the energy, man. That's where we get up. We have our green smoothies, we hit the weights, we do whatever we need.
That's right. Yep. And I think that people will find when you wake up and focus on gratitude, you focus on others, you'll find life to be way more fulfilling. And I know your listeners know that, but that's a powerful thing. What you just said is awesome.
Man, I love it. Hey, Michigan State, I see the football up there behind you. That's where you
man.
went, right?
Go green, baby.
I love it. Hey, I'm just going to end with a gratefulness and thank you to you, and then you get the last word. My gratefulness and thank you is, Molly, you just pumped up my life. I mean, this hour alone has made me feel better. You recharged my batteries, and I know you've done that for everybody that's listening to this. Thank you for, number one, not only taking the time, but just being who you are. I hold you in high esteem, and every time I get to interact with you, you make my day a better day. And thanks for making a difference in people's lives. Glad to be here. Over to you, Molly.
Glad to be here too, baby. I'm glad to be here. So I'll end with this funny story. My brother, one of them was a fighter pilot in the Navy. And I remember, and you might recall this. And then
that's
the other
right.
one,
I wish I could have asked you more, but go ahead.
No, it's okay. But so you'll laugh at this. So one of them was a fighter pilot, not a Blue Angel, but a fighter pilot, flew F-18s and F-14s. And then the other one flew heavies for the Air Force. But the funniest thing ever was the graphic that they sent me right when COVID hit. And they were talking about how, Blue Angel guys like you, right, that you had social distancing that had to be impacted because of the way that you guys are doing what you're doing. Whereas the Air Force guys, there was no impact on social distancing because they're never very close. So it was all about how the fighter guys are like this, right? They got us. You guys had to social distance. So anyway, it was kind of funny. But no, I'm glad to be here, man. You're an inspiration to so many, and I truly am. I'm humbled and grateful to have the opportunity to share with your listeners. And I am loving this. Thank you for sending me your book. It's awesome. And my husband drinks out of your cup every morning. He loves your Glad to Be Here cup, coffee cup. So thanks for having me, man. It's an honor.
Molly, you're epic, and glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.